One more thing I wanted to throw in here. We often talk, especially on Friday with one of our guests, we talk about market psychology and how this can impact trading here. Brandy with a great comment here. If everybody piles into Micron before earnings, there won't be anyone to buy, like Mark Petrino says. Just some food for thought here. Are you worried about this being kind of a concentrated trade and maybe that playing out, or is this all just about corporate earnings at the end of the day?
I mean, there's a point where obviously, people, if we talk about liquidity issues, yeah, there's always certainly a point where it becomes a concern that people run out of cash. But I
Mhm.
just don't feel that's going to be the environment. I think that, quite honestly, a lot of the newer traders, especially with the new PDT rule, there's been a lot of people that have looked to exclude Micron from their list just because premiums are so expensive, or they traded on a weekly, especially early in the week. These guys are trying to bomb into premiums that are like $150, $200 out of the money. And those premiums are still more expensive than NVIDIA would be on a 1 or 2 day expiry. There's a case where there's only a limitation or a small basket of retail traders that are actively looking to trade in on a daily basis. But it's more than you would think. And again, you'll be surprised at how many people, especially when they view this opportunity, may look to try and take a shot now, as opposed to the last week and a half. So I don't think that's the case.
Okay.
Especially with Wall Street, they just have a never-ending amount of money. And quite honestly, the sell-off, which was triggered by essentially nothing, it wouldn't surprise me if a company like Jane Street found out that more retail was, kind of getting on the margin side and found that to be an easy squeeze. That's what they essentially look for. They look for liquidity pockets to take advantage of. They are obviously one of the behemoths of Wall Street. They have the ability. I mean, look at what they did in terms of influence on the precious markets. And, that's them versus more institutional and then
Mhm.
retail. And certainly once, it gets a crowded trade, that's when they look to kind of pull the rug. They've done it in crypto. They've done it in precious metals. It wouldn't surprise me if they were all over crude. This is just the mark of a company that has thousands of thinking pods and trading pods, with pretty much an endless source of cash and capital. So, it wouldn't surprise me if that's the case. Who knows? For whatever reason, there was this huge downturn. But, for especially with traders now, especially with, the PDT rule basically being thrown out the window, this is just going to turn into a great trading opportunity. We should see some really good volatility. I don't necessarily think that we're just going to only bounce today. I do
Mhm.
believe that we could easily pull back, and it's something that traders just have to be aware of. So protect yourself, traders, and protect your profits. But I think it's going to be a fun day to trade.